Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 16.2 released to the public today and is available everywhere around the world at the exact same time. This update includes over 30 different changes, features, and updates, so let's get right into it. And the first thing has to do with the modem. If you were having connectivity issues, this update will have a modem update if you're coming from iOS 16.1.2 or older. Now, as far as new features, the first thing has to do with music. Apple Music has added a new feature called Apple Music Sing. It's a new way to sing along with a bunch of different songs, and the way you activate this is you need to have an iPhone 11 or newer, and then once you're updated, just tap on the little lyric icon and you'll see this little microphone here in the bottom right. And if you tap on this, you'll see here that it switches to a little volume button. Then you can adjust the volume of the audio of the person singing over the track. Hit play and you can sing along. However, not all songs actually follow along 100%. So this one doesn't, but if we go into a more mainstream song, we'll go to Pearl Jam's Even Flow here. You can see that as we tap on Apple Music Sing, jump to this verse, you'll see that it actually follows along to the lyrics individually as the singer is singing to the song, so you can follow along with it. Also within lyrics, if you're having a problem, tap the three dots in the upper right. You can report a concern about those lyrics, saying that the lyrics aren't correct, lyrics aren't in sync, my concern isn't listed, and so on. So you have the option to report issues if you're finding them. There's also some changes here with the play button forward and back. So if we tap on play, the animations are different. So if we compare that to the previous version, you can see here if we press play, the animation is a little bit different when we go forward and back. So they've changed that and updated it a little bit. Within a song, if we tap the three-dot menu, we have the option to rate a song. This isn't showing for me on the previous version with the same song and isn't showing on all songs for some reason, but it is something that's there. The lossless icon has been updated as well, so it's a small visual change. And if we hit play on this song and swipe it home to the dynamic island, you'll see the outline is less pronounced on the dynamic island when you have a dark wallpaper set. So on 16.2, it's not quite as vibrant, but you might notice already that the waveform for the audio matches the album art, where it really didn't very much before. So they've updated that, and it's just a little nicer to look at. Additionally, they've updated it so that your signal strength moves over and makes room for the dynamic island now instead of cutting off information. So if I pause this song, go back home, you'll see here what it normally looks like. We'll go back into this music, press play, swipe home, watch in the upper right. You'll see that it moves over to make room for everything. That's a slight change. You may not see it in every iPhone that has the dynamic island, but the larger Pro Max, you will see it. So it's a small change. I think it's a little nice change, but something that's worth noting. Now there's a new app that's been added with iOS 16.2. We've been waiting for this for some time, and it's called Freeform. We'll go into Freeform, wait for the boards to sync. You'll see there's a new one I created on my iPhone 11, and what it allows is for real-time collaboration across devices with different people. So if I want to draw here, we'll just draw a little line. You'll see that it updated on the other phone in real time. So the iPhone 11 has the same thing. If I want to go over to the iPhone 11 and then maybe mark it up in blue, draw a line through it, you'll see it's in real time again. So this offers real-time collaboration across devices, and Apple calls it a flexible canvas that lets you add files, images, stickies, and more. Apple has added a major update for security with iOS 16.2. If we go into settings, tap on our name at the top and then tap iCloud. If we scroll down on iCloud, we have a new option called Advanced Data Protection. This is a new option that allows end-to-end encryption on your device and no one else has the keys. You'll see here it says Advanced Data Protection. iCloud encrypts your data to keep it secure. Advanced Data Protection uses end-to-end encryption to ensure that the iCloud data types listed here can only be decrypted on your trusted devices, protecting your information even in the case of a data breach in the cloud. Because Apple will not have the keys required to recover your data, you will be guided through verification of your recovery methods in case you ever lose access to your account. And it shows you what it will actually back up. Device backup, messages, iCloud, notes, photos, reminders, Safari, Siri, voice memos, and wallet passes, all encrypted. You have to actually enable this, turn it on, and then set up someone else that's trusted or print out some keys to make sure that you have access to this in the future. And you'll also need to update all of your devices to the most recent version so that you can have it encrypted across all of those devices. So this is a great move in overall security, and I'm glad to see they've added this finally. Additionally, they've promised new features in the future for advanced security protection. So as we scroll down here in their Apple press release, they'll actually have verification of iMessage contacts to let you know that it's actually that person responding to you. They'll have security keys in the future where you could use a YubiKey with your device or your Mac or your iPad, and even more with advanced data protection. So that's great that they've added that. Those features are coming in the future, but advanced data protection is here now. If you live in India, there's great news. You now have 5G support on iPhones that support it. So with iOS 16.2, you have the support for 5G where you didn't before. So you'll have the option to turn it on, put it on auto, put it in LTE, or whatever your preference. Back in settings, if we go down to accessibility and then we scroll down to Siri, there's new options for spoken responses where we can now prefer silent responses. So we have silent responses, automatic, or prefer spoken responses. You now have the option to switch between whatever works for you. There's also some new widgets on the lock screen. So if we go to our lock screen, let's just clear all of our notifications, press and hold, go to Customize, tap on the lock screen, and let's clear one of our widgets out, or we can take a look at the new ones. As we scroll down, you'll see if we go to Health, we have some new options for medications. So there's medications widgets that will remind you when you need to take medications if you want to do that. And then also, if we go down a little bit further, we have some new options for sleep to give you information about sleep if you're tracking that regularly. So it will give you that if you'd like to add that to your different widgets. Also, if we go back and tap the three dots in the bottom right when you're customizing the home screen or lock screen, you now have the option to show the wallpaper in Photos, as you can see here. So that option wasn't there before. If you have an iPhone 14 Pro or 14 Pro Max, you have Always On Display. This is something specific to these devices that's a feature of the newest phones. And if we go into settings, there's some more options for this. Under Settings and under Display and Brightness, scroll down, and under Always On Display, we now have an option to show the wallpaper or hide it, or turn on notifications or hide them. So if I lock the screen, you'll see now that there's nothing here. There's no wallpaper at all. That's something you can do now with this update if you don't want it to have the wallpaper in the background when it's on the Always On Display. I haven't noticed much of a battery difference as far as the overall battery drain with this turned off, but if you don't want everything on the display, I think it's much nicer just to have a clean background with your time and your widgets. So you can enable that or disable that if you'd like to. If we go under Settings and then go to General, under General, go to AirDrop. Under AirDrop, we now have everyone for 10 minutes. This is a change they made in a previous update within China that stops you from having it on everyone continually and jumps back to contacts only, or you could turn it to receiving off. And then it will allow you to use it for 10 minutes and then again default back to contacts only. So that's something that's in this update worldwide now, where it was previously only in China. And it's something I would like to see changed so that you have everyone for 10 minutes, contacts only, and receiving off. I'd like to have all of those options, not just everyone for 10 minutes. Within our home screen, if we slide to the left, we have our widgets. There's a new widget here for Game Center. So if we add widgets under Game Center, if we slide over, we have a new activity widget. And this activity widget lets us see what our friends are doing, what they're playing. And there's also a new update that allows for SharePlay support in Game Center. So you have the activity, you can see your friends playing a game, and maybe you want to jump in that game and play against them or with them. You'll now be able to do that if you're on a FaceTime call using SharePlay. It's there for many other things. Now it's added for Game Center. Apple TV gets some updates as well. If you're using the TV app, TV is a great way to watch sports and different things, and live activities is here for those different sports. Now, first, if we go to our settings, you'll see some settings for that. So if we go back under Settings, scroll down until we get to TV. Under TV, scroll down, and you'll see live activities. We have some options that say more frequent updates and allow live activities, and once those are enabled, we can go over to the TV app. If we scroll down to sports, you'll see we have live sports. Under live sports, you can have live activities in real time as you're following along with your favorite game. So you can open this in a different app, or if it's right in the TV app, you'll see live information in real time here that you can have in the dynamic island and on your lock screen. So that's been updated where that's specific to phones with the dynamic island or just the lock screen if you have a different phone. Additionally, within the TV app, You'll see if we go back at the top, they've changed the way it looks overall. It's kind of got a very intrusive, large view of different shows that are here. And if you want to watch those, it's telling you what's new. And then, of course, you can scroll down to the latest in Apple TV. Messages gets an update with search. So if we go into Messages, Messages has improved search, allowing you to find photos based on their content, such as a car, person, text, or dog. So if I just type in car, it will not only find them in the conversations, but it will also find related links and then find them mentioned in photos. That's been updated. It's a nice little addition that we didn't have before. Within Safari, if we have private relay enabled, that can be found under Settings, and then under Settings, if we go back to our name at the top and tap iCloud, you'll see if we scroll down and you have private relay enabled, if you have iCloud Plus, you'll now have a new option in Safari on a website by website basis. If we tap the two A's here for our settings, you'll see that we have the option to show IP address. This can either show or hide the IP address, and it's enabled on a website by website basis. So that's something that's a little bit new. We can hit continue. It takes a moment and reloads. Then we can go back to those settings and we can hide our IP address. It's hidden by default, and if you want to show it for whatever reason, you can, and you now have that option. Going along with collaboration with Freeform, Apple Notes gets an update where it now has more information as far as participants. With the cursors showing who's actually changing notes in real time, there's live indicators to let you know who's updating what. So if you're sharing a note with someone collaborating, you can see exactly what they're updating and where. Within weather, if we go to the forecast, just tap on any of the forecasted information here, you can see if we drag our finger in real time, we'll see minute by minute what the different changes are. Prior to this, it was hour by hour. So on the previous version, if you drag your thumb or finger across the screen here, you'll see it jumps hour by hour. Now it's even more detailed with minute by minute changes. Additionally, in some cities where there's significant weather events, if you scroll down, you'll start to see news articles related to those events that will bring you to Apple News and tell you more information about it. So if you have a weather emergency or more, you'll start to see more information in here. I haven't seen this in many different cities I've checked, but quite a few people have been seeing those changes depending on where they live and what the current weather is like. Apple continues to make updates to Emergency SOS. If we press the side button 5 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it will start to make an emergency call. If we cancel that call, we'll stop calling, and then we'll go ahead and put our passcode in to get back into our phone. Within notifications, we now have a new notification saying your iPhone initiated emergency SOS at 11:12 a.m. when the side button was pressed 5 times. Sometimes if you tap on this, it will bring you to a survey asking why you canceled it. So you may or may not see that. Sometimes you'll see it, sometimes you won't, but it's something that you may see if it wants to know information about why you might have canceled it. Within Photos, under Photos, if we press and hold on something that it's using for visual lookup, you'll see here that we have information about the landmark, and under the landmark, it will give us our results. If we scroll down to the bottom, we can now report an issue. So if we tap on Report Issue, it says, what do you want to report? Results are incomplete, results are inaccurate, or offensive result is shown. This is an update that's new that you can report if something doesn't seem to be quite right there. Within Albums, if we scroll down, we've known about duplicates for a while. However, if you don't have any duplicates, it will now tell you that you don't have duplicates, where before the option just wouldn't be there. Since I have 624 duplicates, it's showing me that I have them. But you'll have a little blurb there saying that you have the duplicates finding option, but it's just not finding any just yet. Within the podcast app, if we go to maybe browse for a new podcast, find something we want to listen to, in the upper right, it now has a plus that says follow. Before, it was just a plus. It's a small visual change, but something that's been updated. There's also changes in shortcuts. Within shortcuts, if you're creating a new action with wallpaper, there's some new options here where there wasn't before. So you'll see on the previous version, we have set wallpaper. Now we have switch between wallpapers, set wallpaper photo, or get wallpaper. There's also an update with battery. And you'll see there's a wording change here where it says get battery level. If we select that instead of what we had before, tap on battery level, we have some new options where it just has a drop-down menu and says is charging, is connected to charger, ask each time, or shortcut input. The Home app gets an update with improved reliability and efficiency of communication between your smart home accessories and Apple devices. So it should work a little bit better after everything's updated to iOS 16.2 and all of the other versions that were released also. To go along with Emergency SOS that I mentioned earlier, There's now an update to this with crash detection. So on iPhone 14 and 14 Pro models, they've again optimized crash detection. Now, hopefully this has to do with maybe roller coasters where it was triggering it by accident, or maybe it has to do with people that were on ski slopes triggering it. Either way, it's been optimized again. It was optimized in the previous version of iOS 16.1.2. Before we take a look at what's new with iPadOS 16.2, Apple has also canceled plans for CSAM. CSAM Detection is something that it was going to scan photos and then report photos if it thought there was really inappropriate information in there. Now it's not going to do that. They've completely abandoned that and decided that they're not going to have that on their devices. And instead, they introduced that advanced data protection that I showed you before. On iPadOS 16.2, if we plug in a Thunderbolt display to my studio display, if you have an M1 or M2 iPad, you'll now have the option for external display support. If we go into Settings, go to Display and Brightness, tap on Arrangement, turn off Mirror Display, tap on Set, we now have a full screen display on our studio display, or any connected display. It makes it like using a Mac, but connected to your iPad. Also, if we turn on Stage Manager, once this is enabled, we now have the option to change the recent apps and dock on a display-by-display basis. So we can change that on maybe the external display. We don't want the dock. We can turn that on or off. However, it does not seem to work 100% of the time yet. It does seem to be a little bit buggy, but you do have the options there, and hopefully they'll work a little bit more reliably in the future. So again, if I change them, they're not changing on my external display for some reason, but the option is there. Now, Apple has fixed a bunch of issues, and the first issue they've mentioned is specific to the iPad. They fixed an issue where it could cause multi-touch gestures to become unresponsive when using the Zoom accessibility feature. That's been updated on the iPad and is now working properly. Apple has also fixed an issue that was causing some notes not to sync with iCloud after updates were made. So that's something I heard quite a bit of people tell me about, where it just wouldn't sync properly and their notes weren't being updated. That should be resolved in iOS 16.2. With this update, Apple has also updated security. If we go to the Apple security website, scroll down, after the update, they typically will update this website with more information. However, at the time of this video, they still haven't updated iOS 16.1.2 details, so we could get them immediately, or it could be some time before we actually see what they've updated here. But they've updated security. Hopefully there's quite a few things here, and they'll let us know what they are a little bit later on. Now, as far as if you should install this particular update, I would absolutely recommend installing it, not just for the additional features, but also because of the security updates, advanced data protection with the end-to-end encryption, and much more. As far as bugs that are still there, well, some people were having Wi-Fi disconnect bugs. That was early on in the beta. Those seem to be resolved for most people now. The only people I've heard from that still have that issue typically have router problems or maybe need a firmware update there where they could have additional issues. That may not happen for everyone, but I have heard of that for a lot of people. Also, as far as the storage goes, some people continue to have issues with storage, but it seems like it's mostly fixed with iOS 16.2. So under iPhone storage, we'll give it a moment to load here. And under storage, if we scroll down, you'll see that the OS is taking up 9.59 gigabytes. That's completely normal. The new OS will overwrite the old OS. Also, system data can vary greatly. You can see it just changed there. So it can go up and down depending on your overall storage, and it can be 5 gigabytes, it can be 80 gigabytes. It doesn't really matter as long as you have additional storage available. It uses that as cache, and it seems to be fixed for most people where it's not using so much storage that you can't install apps. But that's why it's at the bottom, so that it's not really something you need to look at a lot. But it should be working fine as far as that goes. As far as overall battery life, well, battery life varies depending on device and depending on who you are. My battery health on this device is 100%, and as I've been using the betas and the release candidate, it seems to be getting better, but it's still not incredible. So I have 3 hours and 35 minutes of screen on time, 6 hours and 23 minutes of screen idle time, and I've used about 70% of my battery, 65% of the battery. Depending on the day, depends on how well it does. My home screen seems to use an awful lot of battery most of the time, home screen and lock screen, but it gets me through the day, and by the time I put it on the charger, and usually typically waking up and taking it off the charger by 8:30 in the morning, putting it on the charger by 2 in the morning, it has about 50% left most of the time, so it easily gets me through a day. So it should do pretty well there, and most people are reporting that it's quite good. I wouldn't expect too many differences between iOS 16.1.2 battery and the battery of this. As far as overall performance, ProMotion is super smooth, which is great. There are sometimes stutters when you're playing music and then swiping to the dynamic island. Sometimes there's just odd stutters here and there as you swipe home. So we'll try that again. It's nice and smooth now, and it has been with the release candidate, but occasionally I'll get a slight hiccup here and there. Before I'd have to restart the device for that to work. Now it's working well. On older devices, while the iPhone 11 isn't terribly old, it's nice and fast going into different apps, maybe loading the camera or opening the camera if you need to snap a photo quickly. Things seem to work really well as far as that goes. As far as the overall heat of the device, well, it's staying nice and cool. During the entire time of the release candidate, during the time of filming this video, it is a little bit warm there, but nothing that's hot, nothing that's alarming. It manages the heat itself, but let me share the thermal camera with you so you can see what it looks like. And as I bring in the thermal camera, as I move it over the hottest part of the phone, it's at about 29.1 degrees Celsius. Let me switch over to Fahrenheit, and you'll see in the same area that's about 86.2. I saw 86.4 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's staying fairly cool. It's not really an issue. It's nice and cool. Of course, I don't usually keep a case on it 100% of the time, especially if I'm fast charging it, but it stays nice and cool to the touch, so no concerns there. As far as future releases, typically every year we'll have one more beta release before the end of the year. Maybe by the end of this week. Last year it was on the 17th, but by the end of this week we could have an iOS 16.3 beta 1, or maybe we'll have those future advanced security updates I mentioned earlier, and maybe some new features as well. Then we wouldn't have a beta 2 probably until mid-January. Typically with the holiday break, with Christmas and New Year's, we'll have that break and then a new update, usually the second week of January or so. And then we'll continue with betas until iOS 17 all the way in June. So time's going by very quickly. We could see iOS 17 usually the first or second week of June. So just about 6 months away, we'll see that. So as far as all the features, I think we'll see some more, but we continue to get some really nice security updates. And let me know how it's going for you as far as iOS 16.2 and if you've installed it yet. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.